The upcoming story is going to be absolutely hilarious. You're going on vacation? Take my kids with you. My boyfriend's cousin has 4 children. Each of her kids is the personification of the word bratty. The cousin refuses to discipline them and constantly makes excuses for their behavior. She's also very judgmental of our decision to not have children. She has often made some snide comments towards me, implying that I'm the selfish cunt who is depriving my boyfriend of the joys of raising children. For these reasons, and for her generally entitled behavior, my boyfriend had cut ties with her. However, when he and I visited his parents' home 3 days ago for their anniversary celebration, we ran into her again. My boyfriend's dad urged him to use this occasion to mend bridges with his cousin. So we both tried to make nice and engaged in small talk with her. During our conversation, my boyfriend mentioned that we were leaving for Melbourne for vacation in a few days. At this, his cousin's eyes lit up. "Oh, that sounds like so much fun," she said. "My husband and I haven't gone anywhere since our honeymoon." She whined some more about how hard it is for them with 4 kids, if only they could afford such luxuries, etc. I could tell where this was going. My boyfriend probably felt sorry for her and, being the kind and generous soul that he is, offered to buy them a weekend in a resort in Mount Abu, a hill station in India. His cousin's face scrunched up. "That's nice, but why can't you just take us to Melbourne with you?" My boyfriend, getting a bit annoyed but still patient, said, "Well, we want to spend some time alone together. Plus, we'll be meeting some close friends there. Besides, Mount Abu is a beautiful place. Your kids will love it." His cousin, in an annoying Karen tone, said, "I still don't see why you can't take us to Australia. You're being so selfish, going on this great trip and sticking your family with a cheap weekend getaway." My boyfriend's mom chimed in and said, "He's making a very generous offer. Either take it or leave it." His cousin, with an expression on her face that morons wear when they think they've had a bright idea, said, "Oh, I know. Why don't my husband and I go to Mount Abu and you can take our kids to Melbourne?" "What?" I exclaimed. The cousin said, "It's a great idea. The kids can have fun in Melbourne with you two, and my hubby and I can enjoy a peaceful weekend. This way, the kids can actually spend some time with their uncle. You never make time for them." My boyfriend said, "I'm offering for the last time. It's either the weekend in Mount Abu or nothing at all. And why the hell would we ruin our vacation taking care of your kids?" His cousin said, "How can you say that? My kids are so well behaved. You'll have so much fun spending time with them. Besides, my husband and I could really use some quiet time together. You and OP don't have any responsibilities. You have no idea how hard it is to raise 4 kids. You can afford this trip. I don't see why you won't share with family." My boyfriend said, "One more word, and you're losing my Mount Abu offer." On hearing this, his cousin didn't say another word. We all had dinner together, and she was mercifully quiet. If only her kids had followed her example. You'd think this would be the end of it, but no. We had seriously underestimated her dedication to Karen-ness. This morning, his cousin showed up at my apartment with the kids in tow. I was shocked to see her, of course, and asked if something was wrong. She smiled and said, "I'm just here to drop the kids off. You're leaving tonight, right?" After taking a second to recover from the shock, I asked, "Did you fall and hit your head or something? We told you we weren't taking your kids with us. What part of that did you not understand?" She then tried to convince me that my boyfriend had called her later on and had agreed to take her kids. I knew this was bullshit and called it as such. She became enraged and asked if I was going to break her kids' hearts, why I would break our promise, and how my boyfriend and I could be so cold. I called my boyfriend, and after telling him what was going on, I turned on the speaker. My boyfriend proceeded to chew her out brutally, telling her he would no longer pay for their weekend getaway and that this is exactly the kind of behavior that had made him cut ties with her. She tried to get a word in, but he wouldn't let her. His cousin took her kids and stormed off. My boyfriend and I are having a laugh over this and are still wondering what made her think that this plan would ever work. So my first question to OP, how was your vacation? Haha, this is a perfect example of a choosing beggar. Oh my goodness. Am I the for cutting off my family over my mom's will? I always suspected my mom preferred my sister over me. Growing up, she spoiled my sister with whatever she wanted and took her word over mine whenever we argued. I was always in second place compared to her. For example, when I turned 16, I was given my aunt's old clunker of a car that ended up dying within 6 months. When my sister turned 16, she got the brand new red Volkswagen of her dreams. Mom said that I couldn't continue my piano lessons because they were getting so expensive, while still supporting my sister's dance lessons and competitions and more. Things got really bad about a decade ago. When we were in high school, I fell in love with this guy, Joey, and started dating him for a while, only for him to dump me because he preferred my sister. Yes, my sister seduced him. This really broke my heart because he was my first love. Well, my sister and Joey ended up getting married after their college graduation, and that is when things went from bad to worse. Our mother had her will made, and she was leaving everything to my sister. For background information, our childhood home was a 2-story building, where my mother's flower shop was on the ground floor, and the apartment we grew up in was the second floor. While I didn't get along with my mom or sister, I loved that flower shop and had been working there for most of my life. I dreamed of owning that shop one day. But instead, my mother was going to leave the building, the shop, and the apartment to my sister. While I could still work in the shop, my sister would be the owner, and I would have to do what she said. There was no use in trying to convince her to change her mind. In her mind, my sister was the married one with a baby on the way. She needed the business and house to raise her family. Meanwhile, I was single and had nothing. So I cut them off. If my mother didn't see me as a family member, then I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. It was clear who she favored more. So I moved out of my childhood home and was on my own. Less than a year later, I joined the Peace Corps and have been living abroad ever since. Now to the present. After not hearing from them for years, my sister found me on social media and reached out to me. She wanted to talk to me, rekindle whatever relationship we had. I told her no, that I never wanted to talk to her or have anything to do with her or our mother again. She then starts to write this angry message about how I could do this to her and why would I turn my back on her. But as far as I was concerned, she is not my family. She hasn't been my family in a decade. My partner and our baby is family. I have a new, happier, more fulfilling life in South Africa than I ever did back in the States. I don't want to ever see my old family again because of how they treated me. I don't want them to meet my daughter. If I let them back into my life, I'm afraid they will ruin the new life I made for myself. Am I the bad guy and being too harsh? Not the bad guy, not from my point of view. You found peace and love elsewhere instead of with them. No need to drag up all that toxicity again if you're in a good place. Your mom essentially disowned you. She deserves nothing from you at all. And your sister is very much in the wrong here too. Like for allowing your mom to shower her with everything and to give you nothing. Not to mention wooing your boyfriend from you and marrying him, which is an incredibly shitty thing to do to you. I can't even believe these people are so clueless and so heartless. Am I the idiot for leaving after being told to be quiet at dinner? The title probably makes it sound worse than it was, but I'm still conflicted. My boyfriend of almost a year invited me to dinner with his family, his mom, dad, and his 16-year-old brother. I've never met them prior to that. The only thing I knew about them is that they're conservative and Christians, but lovely people. And they were. I got along really well with them before dinner. They were lovely and talkative. When it was time for dinner, my boyfriend's dad wanted to pray. After praying, he said something along the lines of, "Let us dig and let the food keep us quiet." This is a pretty popular saying in our country, mostly told to young children in school. My understanding of this has always been that you shouldn't speak with food in your mouth or be extremely loud at the table. I wouldn't say it's a cultural thing, though. I dug in, took a bite. It was fish soup. Absolutely delicious. And you know, like a good guest, I wanted to compliment the cook. "This is delicious. Is it saffron? A perfect autumn soup." My boyfriend's brother looked surprised. My boyfriend's father hushed me. Big time. A really aggressive shh with a finger over his lips. And then he said again, "Let the food keep us quiet." I apologized because I thought I had accidentally spoken with food in my mouth or something. But a few minutes passed and nobody said a word. Super awkward and weird, especially since they had been so talkative before. My boyfriend was also unusually quiet. After a few minutes, I was too weirded out and asked about their day and how nice it was that they invited me there. And his mother did the hush thing. So awkward. I think this is when it clicked. No speaking at all at the table. Let the food keep us quiet. Really quiet. But this was a super awkward situation, and I couldn't deal with that. Imagine sitting at a table with 5 people, everybody eating soup, looking dead serious. So I laughed. It just slipped out, ending up being told off by my boyfriend's parents that I was being disrespectful, etc. And if I didn't respect how their household worked, I could leave the dining room and eat alone in the kitchen. So I thanked them for the food and went back to the hotel my boyfriend and I were staying at. My boyfriend later told me that was an move, that I should have just kept quiet or ate alone in the kitchen. I understand their family traditions and rules, but it was so weird. I just couldn't take it anymore. Was I being an though? Not at all. He could have warned you and given you the opportunity to skip dinner because you don't dine in monasteries. Your boyfriend is the for not warning you that his family is really weird. Also, you are not a 3-year-old to be sent to the kitchen to eat alone. My friend's parents broke into my house and killed my pet snake because he was the sign of the devil. I'm a 23-year-old female. This happened about 2 years ago. I had a 3-year-old fancy corn snake named Popcorn. I invited my friend over. She likes snakes, but her parents are overly Christian and claimed that snakes were the sign of the devil. So she had to pretend that she hated them. So anyway, she came over, we talked, fed the snake, played video games, and then she left. When she got home, she must have told her parents that I had a snake. About a week later, they had sneaked in through the living room window, where I kept my snake, opened his enclosure's lid, and grabbed him. The next morning, I went downstairs to say good morning to Popcorn. I noticed he was gone, but I wasn't too worried because, well, he was probably hiding. I watched TV for a bit, then my friend was frantically knocking on my door. I opened it, and she looked extremely sad and worried. She told me that her parents had killed Popcorn. I didn't believe her, so I checked his entire enclosure, and sure enough, he was gone. I called the cops, and she was fortunately arrested for breaking and entering, though I still feel like she deserved more. I got a new snake, but he isn't the same. Wow, this is a horrible story and very triggering. I'm so sorry for your loss, OP. R.I.P. Popcorn. Am I the bad guy for laughing in my mother's friend's face when she told me to go to my room? I'm a 25-year-old female and I don't speak to my mother, like at all. I had to go to my mother's house today to pick up an important document that I left behind when I moved out 7 years ago. As soon as I got to the house, my mother suddenly had a massive emergency and realized that it was apparently her friend's funeral today and she completely forgot about it. I couldn't help but internally roll my eyes, as there's always some drama, hence why we have virtually no contact. She asked me if I would watch my 2 younger brothers, who are 7 and 11 years old, while she went to the funeral, and I said absolutely not, as it's my only day off. I have plans, and I have no relationship with them due to my mother stopping them from seeing me for years. I just wanted to get my birth certificate and leave. My mother asked her friend if she would babysit and asked me to stay for 10 minutes until her friend arrived. I didn't even get the opportunity to say no before my mother left the house. I was seething, but resolved to wait the 10 minutes. My mother's friend turned up and started berating me for not agreeing to look after my brothers while my mother went to the funeral. I said, I don't have anything to do with my mother. It's my day off work, and I'm under no obligation to look after anyone else's children. My mother's friend then told me to go to my room. I laughed in her face and started to leave the house. And she asked me where I was going, and I told her, my room at my apartment that I pay for with my big girl job, because I'm an adult, not a child, and don't ever speak down to me like that again. And I left. My mother has left me loads of messages and missed calls saying I'm a for the way I spoke to her friend. I do admit I look kind of young, but I'm still not happy with the way my mother's friend spoke to me. Am I the bad guy? Not the bad guy. The audacity to try and send someone else's adult child to their room. I would have laughed too. She had no business speaking to you that way regardless. The fact that adults can quite often get away with behaving badly towards children because children don't usually have the ability to do what you did here doesn't mean that their behavior is good. It just means that they can get away with it. Let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below in the comments, and or not, and why. If you subscribe, remember to click the bell icon for notifications. To enjoy all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description of this video. See you in the next video.